Hello, people. As always, I have to start the other thing. So here we go. Oh, okay. This recording live is going to be a pain because I forgot I had to enter all this shit in. You know what? Not going to go live. Going to start offline. Hello and welcome. This is the podcast I Do What I Want by me, Hollis Joe McCullum. I am your host, the hostess with the mostest, perhaps. I don't know, probably not. That was silly, but I enjoyed it, so that's fun. Anyway, I've got my little elfier headphones on today because my big clunky headphones were being problematic and I got very tired of screwing around with them. So, it's been a while since I've done the podcast. Sorry, I've been away. I actually went to Greece in October, and then my brother got married, which was just wonderful, and I'm so excited for him and his wife and their little family. They're wonderful, wonderful people, and I had the best time celebrating with them. And now I'm back, going to go back to the 2 episodes a month, bi-weekly. There we go. That's the term I was looking for, bi-weekly episodes. And this week, we are actually going to be doing another character study from Rashan series, what I'm calling the Rashan series. The first book in that is To Save a World, and the sequel to the Rashan series will be coming out this spring. It's completely finished. It's presently in editing, and I am doing cover design and page layout and da 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 da. Figuring out all the publishing, but I'm very, very excited. Projecting for that to happen spring of next year. So I want it to be like March, April. We'll find out. So there's that. And let me see, what else do I have? Oh, yes. Also very exciting is that I have Black Friday sales going on right now because, it's Thanksgiving week and we used to wait until the day after Thanksgiving, but in our modern commerce capitalist society, we just start that early. Just start it all early and we just like have sales all month. But I just dropped my Black Friday sales today, so if you go to my website, which will be linked down below in the YouTube section, it's hollisjoemccullumauthor.com for those who are just listening and want to type it in. There is the deal on there, and it's basically you can get any of my books or all of I only have two, the two books. You can get any of the two books that I have for $12 a piece with my signature. If you would like a dedication, please let me know. I would love to dedicate it. Just let me know who I'm dedicating it to, and I'll be happy, and how to spell their name, and I'll be very happy to do that. And then also you get a free bookmark with that. And that bookmark, well, people on YouTube will be able to see this. And um it's about 4 inches by 9 inches map of Duomo that I hand drew. And I have, like, see, I have a whole stack of them and a nice textured card stock. And this is a little map of the city of Duomo in the book, which is the main city in the book. Anyway, if when you read To Save a World, if you haven't read it already, Duomo is really important city, and this is the little port area of Duomo that I just doodled out one day, and I was like, that came out cool. So you get a free bookmark with every book. So if you order 3 books from me, you get 3 bookmarks, all for $12. And on my website, hollisjoemccullumauthor.com, it's just really super easy. I have the link right there that says shop now. And basically, you just send me a direct email that has all the information I needed, and I tell you everything I need to know. and we'll take care of payment, and I'll figure out, where to send it and get everything out to you with the signature. So makes a great gift. So please, get in there, $12 present and with a bookmark. I mean, come on. I think that's a great holiday gift. Books are always wonderful gifts. I hoard them. Anyway, also, update with the Queen, or no, I said the update with the Queen Witch. Hee hee. I'm very excited about that one. I really, really am. That's probably one of my favorite projects to date, to be totally honest. I love Spare the Swallow too, for very, very different reasons, but they're two very different worlds. And the other announcement that I have as far as before we get into talking about Yocelin is that we are going to, I'm a Gemini, I'm sorry, I'm saying we. Or maybe I'm including my dear husband who helps me as much as he can with things. We, whatever, are going to be doing a book series based on both of them. So, Two Safer World, as I've mentioned before, I actually initially wrote it as a standalone. I was not anticipating that it would be anything of a series or a trilogy or anything of that nature. But people loved it so much who read it, and even though it was a completed storyline and there are no cliffhangers or anything, everyone was saying, "Well, what happens to the characters next? I wanna know!" And that was really exciting for me. So I, went ahead and wrote The Queen Witch, haha, ended up being a really fulfilling and exciting story for me. The stakes are, emotionally higher, I think, even though in To Save a World, it's the whole world that's in jeopardy. Technically, the whole world is in jeopardy again in The Queen Witch, but, what is more immediately in jeopardy is much, much more emotionally, instigating. And I obviously am not gonna give a whole bunch of spoilers or anything like that, but that one to me, the story sort of developed on its own, and I love it, and it was one of those that became very easy to write once I got going, and I'm really into it, and I know that my beta readers have been really phenomenally helpful, and they say they love it, and possibly more than the first one. So that is turning into a series which I am going to be calling the Rashan series. Rashan is, of course, the name of the world itself. And I'm going to just keep writing stories with those characters and that world. And hey, we'll probably branch out into different characters and just let's just create a whole world series about that. No baseball puns at all. I'm not a sports person, but fantasy world series. And then I also was Spare the Swallow, which is as again, if you listen to my podcast, it's a totally different world, totally different concept, still a fantasy, but it's actually more of a historical fantasy because the race of the Dockvens that I created are based on the ancient Etruscans of Italy. They If you've read it, and again, no spoilers, but if you've read it, you know that it also lends itself to essentially, an endless amount of other stories that could happen with the characters. And I'm already working on my fourth novel, which is the next book in the what I'm going to be I haven't quite drafted yet, but we'll say the Spare the Swallow world at this point. Um, I'm thinking of something with Chronicles, The Lost Chronicles, I don't know, it's a working series title. I do not have to figure that out right now. I have, like, a year before I have to get that one situated, so I'm gonna hold off. But those, I am going to be creating 2 different series with 2 different fantasy worlds. I hope you love them. I'm enjoying writing them very, very much, and really enjoying hearing about how you love them. So, please, and again, as I always say, if you wanna message me online, all you have to do is tell me you're okay with spoilers, And, and I actually will tell you a few things. I won't tell you everything because 'cause I'm not gonna do that, but I will answer some questions if you tell me you're actually okay with knowing something that before you reading the book. So, yeah, leaps and bounds to become the author I want to be. Uh, yeah, so let's get into the world of Rashan, and one of the 4 main characters is Yocelin. In To Save a World, she's the last one you meet of the 4 big ones. So I basically did these character study episodes in the order that you actually meet the characters in the book. So it was Eithne first, then Darian, then Aram, and now we have Yocelin. And I might do character studies for Tim and Jeeve as well, a little bit down the line, but we'll stick with this for now. So, Yocelin oh, and spoiler alert, like, I'm going to be talking about her background a little bit and who she is as a person, so I'm really not gonna spoil plot points for you, but I'm going to talk about her backstory. So, there is that level of spoiler in this episode. I promise I'm not gonna spoil the plot of the book, the storyline for you, but in order to do a character study, I've gotta talk about her past and how she is, how she became who she is in the book and so on. So there is that little alert for you. So, as I like to sort of structure this, I like to talk about who Yocelin was in the book that I wrote. So, because of course, again, just as recap, this book, To Save a World, was based on a Dungeons and Dragons game that I played with my best friend years ago, and I ended up sort of, massaging that game into a novel, and I changed some things. But I like to talk about the differences of the character between how I ended up writing them and how, they were originally played. So, Yocelin in the book, she's incredibly optimistic and she's very, very friendly. And I tell people in the book when I was writing her, I actually thought, she's honestly a spicy Latina. Like she's vivacious, she's friendly, she's super optimistic, but she will also like tell you when you're doing wrong and all of that. She'll get on to you. And that is honestly why her name is Yocelin, which it's spelled very differently because of course I had to just spell it differently, but Yocelin is how a lot of how you say Jocelyn because in Spanish, because in Spanish, if you aren't a Spanish speaker or, don't know anything, the J's become Y's or H's, essentially. They're more of a huh or a yeah sound. In Spanish, they're not, and I am not a fluent Spanish speaker. So and again, I know a little bit. I speak smatterings. I'm a good tourist, but if you know more Spanish than I do, please feel free to message me and correct me. I love to learn, and I by no means think that I am an expert at all. And I am not a native speaker by any stretch. I am an Italian girl, but that's a different thing. So, yeah, so it's basically the Spanish pronunciation of the name Jocelyn, but it's spelled differently, but her name is Yocelin, and she's a Latina. She's, cinnamon skinned with violet hair and, just this like boom, boom, boom little hourglass body. She's petite and she's sassy and very, very friendly. She laughs a lot. I like her a lot, and she is a demon or possibly a half demon. We don't know. Um, that is something because she herself doesn't know. So in the book, and again, this is just world explaining, it's not actually plot stuff. But in the book, you have 3 main humanoid races, and, you have elves, humans, and demons are just another race in the world of Rashan. They're not, evil from hell or anything like that. They're just another humanoid race. That's it. And that's, they're just, they're just as good or bad or neutral as anyone else, as the elves and the humans. And Yocelin looks more like an elf, except for the fact that she's much more petite because elves are very tall in my world of Rashan. Ethne is about average height for an elven female, which means she's like 5'9", 5'10" for a female, and then the elven males are a little, over 6 foot as a general average height. So they're very tall. Yocelin is probably around 5'3". She's very petite. She does have the pointed ears of an elf, and she has, an elven facial structure. Uh, but her height is much shorter, and she has dark violet hair, like this beautiful purple curly hair, and she has these two black curling horns that come out from her head, which is really the main identifying factor about her being a demon or probably a half demon. So, as we have learned from the other character studies, the elves actually can be quite prejudiced. The humans can too. And actually, and the demons can too. They can all be quite prejudiced against each other. And Yocelin was her little backstory, which was something I created for the book because I needed to develop her character, was that she was abandoned as a baby outside of an elven city, and some people found her who became her parents. And when she was a baby, she didn't have horns or any, she just had like her little elven ears and probably a little smaller than your average elf child, but they just thought, "Oh my god, here's an abandoned baby." They took her in and they raised her. And then, around her adolescence, and there were always a few things, like she didn't quite fit in, that obviously were more her demon traits coming through. But when she hit puberty, her horns started to grow, and, well, that wasn't good. And these people who had raised her whole life, they realized, "Oh, no, this isn't an elf, this is a demon." And they actually kicked her out, like, when she was, elves live much longer. I think I said elves live for about 400 years in the world of Rashan, and so Yocelin presumably will live to be about that long. But they realized, she was essentially the equivalent of like a 13 or 14-year-old. And she got kicked out and abandoned by the people who had raised her, and she thought they loved her and all of that stuff. It's a very, very horrible, sad situation. And so she is abandoned by the elves for having horns, essentially. Her personality didn't change, but she's also not accepted by the demons because she looks like an elf. And a likely scenario is that she's a half breed, like that she is half and half. That somewhere along the line, a demon and an elf got together, and whoever the mother was not going to raise that baby, and they abandoned her somewhere that she would be found, and she was. But now she's this person who lives between two worlds and is rejected by both. And of course she's rejected by humans because she is. She's this demon to them. And she is such a social extroverted person. And you can imagine how much that hurts someone like that. So she's extraordinarily lonely. She's been in by the time we meet her in the book, she's in she's been on her own for probably at least 50 or 60 years. In reality, again, like a 400-year lifespan. So at least 50 or 60 years, but she's in her mid to late 20s when we meet her just to give you an age why, like a little age bracket thing. So yeah, like mid 20s is when we meet her, but she has grown up in this world that just rejects her everywhere she goes, and everything is a fight. Just to just to have a conversation, just to have a place to sleep for the night, just, everything. And she wants nothing more than to have friends. Honestly, that's what Yocelin wants. She really does. Her main character motivation is to be accepted. She doesn't want to be rich, she doesn't want power. She wants to be loved and accepted for who she is. That's it. So she's actually quite sad, even though on the outside she's extraordinarily bubbly and she's super friendly, and that's part of her persona of, that because she wants everyone to like her. So she smiles a lot and she's really optimistic and and she'll give you presents and all sorts of things, and she tries really hard and she's really quick to call you a friend because she wants a friend so badly. She's actually kind of desperate, but wouldn't you be too? And that's how she is. And again, not necessarily desperate for a romantic relationship, just for any relationship. She just wants somebody to care about her because her own parents rejected her. And they apparently gave no second thoughts about it. I don't really go into that too much. She certainly never went back. It hurt too much to just have them kick her out after they had raised her for so many years, just because she grew some horns and her behavior didn't change at all. But again, this also speaks to the climate of how prejudice elves in particular can be. Again, in the world, humans and demons are also prejudiced, but elves are by far the race with the most prejudices to work through, which as we talked about in the character study with Aram, he had a lot of rejection, and that's honestly one of the reasons that Aram and Yocelin relate to each other so well in the book, is because they were both rejected around the same age for not the same reason, of course, but similar reasons. And while Aram is very much an introvert, he too also just wants someone to care about him. That's it. And I'm very sorry for the sound of my heater if you can hear that. The furnace here in the basement is very loud. But I think it shut off now. But yeah, that's it. So she's also, even though she is extraordinarily confident, or she acts really confident, she's not confident at all. Not really, because she's always terrified that someone is going to leave her again. So she's so quick to cling in, but then she gets a little clingy, as you'll see in the book, and or may have already seen in the book, she gets clingy because she's like, "Oh God, this person is nice to me. Oh, I got to latch in." And that doesn't happen very often. I have to keep this one around. And she'll physically and emotionally stick with you, and she will be a little anxious on the inside. She honestly, at least in the beginning, as the story goes on, obviously she becomes much more comfortable, and she knows that Eithne, Darian, and Aram have accepted her, and they're not going to abandon her like everyone else. But honestly, she's very anxious on the inside for the first half of the book because she's terrified that these people are going to leave her like everyone else did, for no real reason, to be honest, just because of what she looks like, essentially, not because of who she is. Or I'm sure there's always that nagging doubt in her mind that maybe she is maybe it is her, maybe it is her personality, and that sort of thing, which, I actually had a friend, comment to me, and I appreciated the feedback, that when they read the book, they actually found Yocelin to be kind of annoying. And then when they realized her backstory, they were like, "Okay, that makes sense." When they got to the point where their backstory, they were like, "Okay, I get that now. She's less annoying now that I know this about her because this explains her behavior." And yeah, so that's Yocelin in the book, but she's always trying very hard, and she's always very optimistic. And now in the game originally that was played, Yocelin did not have any of those emotional problems. She, in the game, she was not my character, she was actually my best friend Ashley's character, and she was super bubbly and honestly like a Latina, like, yeah, she was always jovial and happy and optimistic and a little bit of a wild child. But as far as I know, in the game, I don't remember if Ashley ever created a backstory for her, which we don't always do. People don't always do that for their characters when they're playing a role-playing game like that. So they, yeah, I don't think she ever had a backstory, but she was much more confident, much less clingy in the game, and yeah, and she was still very, very quick to befriend, but it didn't matter as much to her in the game if you weren't going to be her friend. If you rejected her, she would, whatever, I don't really care." She was absurdly confident, much like I personally am in my real life. I'm brimming over with confidence, yeah. But and that's how Yoselin was in the game. But again, for the sake of the story, I was writing her in a book, I needed to give her a backstory, and frankly, when I thought about it and I thought about, okay, well, this person, lives between 2 worlds, and the elves are pretty prejudiced, and what would have happened to her realistically thinking? What would have happened to Yoselin? She probably would not have been born to parents. I think she was an or I think Ashley said she was an orphan originally as well, like, she didn't know who her real parents were, but again, in that version of her, it just was not an emotional issue. But when you're writing a character in a book, you have to explore that, because when you're writing them and you're giving internal dialogues and thinking through their actual personal motivations for their actions, you've gotta create something else. And so Jocelyn is a very, very wounded individual, um, and she wasn't in the game at all. And that is fun. That's something that I hope that is very relatable for some people, 'cause I don't hope it's relatable in the sense that I hope people have trauma in their lives, but the fact of the matter is a lot of people have a lot of trauma and sadness, and a lot of people, even if it wasn't as extreme as being rejected by your own parents and kicked out of the house when you were 14, which unfortunately does happen, uh, but even if it's not that extreme, a lot of people out there can relate to, I think, that feeling of never being accepted by anyone, in any world or culture, if you will, and all you really want is a friend, or you're like, not even a lot, you just are like, "Can I just have, like, 1 or 2 people that care about me? Can I please? Please?" And because humans, of course, I'm speaking Earth, real human peoples, but in the sense of the world of Rashan, the demons, humans, elves, we all have that same emotional need. We're all gregarious. We all need each other. You don't need a ton of people necessarily, but you need your tribe. You need your people who love you, your family, whether it's blood family or chosen family, whatever, but you need those people. You need your support people in your life. And that is something that I think I really did want to explore that with the character of Yoselin and have someone who, and she did overcome her struggle. She is incredibly strong emotionally. For someone like her to persevere with optimism and friendliness, and for so many years of being rejected over and over and over and over again by, pretty much everyone she encountered, just because it was very blatantly obvious that she's not quite an elf, she's not quite a demon, she's definitely not human. People were always pushing her away just because of what she looked like, and not based at all upon who she actually was and who she actually was or is. is is a delightful person who will bend over backwards for you and always try to help you, and yeah, she laughs a lot, and she's a little clingy, but she is well worth it as someone in your life, and that's something that I feel a lot of people are, and it's just that they've had so many negative influences in their life that influence their behavior that they are rejected, but all they really want is love. All they really want is acceptance. And for somebody to be there for them, to be a friend, to be that chosen family. And again, Yocelin does find that. And that is part of her personal journey through the book is she and Aram, they both have very similar personal journeys, which again is one of the reasons why they relate to each other so strongly, is because they both are going through this journey of, gosh, I really just want people to care about me. I really just want my family. I really just want friends. And happily they get them. And moving on, let's talk a little bit about why we love Yoselin, which I've already touched on before. She 100% of the time has your back. If you are her friend, which again, she's quick to call you her friend, she's behind you no matter what. She's supporting you, she's taking care of you. She's got you. Yocelin's your ride or die. She is definitely ride or die. She will be there. Doesn't matter. And that's an extremely positive quality in a person. And she's actually extremely authentic, even though to herself, I mean, even though she is rejected over and over again, Yocelin does have the personal insight and strength of character to know that she knows she's a good person. She knows she is. And so she perseveres in a very genuine way. And even though she has these habits of being a little clingy and, being a little anxious and kind of she gets extra bubbly because she's like, "Oh gosh, let's please like me, please like me." That other than those things, but she even though she's doing those things and it makes her act a little nervous sometimes or t a little extra, let's just say a little much. But but she's doing it and it's all genuinely authentically her at the same time. She never shows you a different face. She doesn't wear, the metaphorical masks. She never does that. You know what you're getting with her, what all of the time, and again, she is always there for you and she is always honest with you. She's always genuine about who she is, how she's behaving. You know who she is and she will always be herself and she will not behave differently around a different group of people. Like she is always authentically Yoselin. And that again is also a wonderful quality, and that is something because at least Yoselin has the emotional intelligence to know that if somebody's going to love her, like, really love her as a friend or otherwise, like, she wants to be loved, she needs to be herself in order to get it, and she is extraordinarily empathic in that way, and that's one of the reasons, and that's another very positive quality. She's very empathic. She senses needs in others. She will bend over backward to fill them for you and be there for you, and she genuinely cares. She's sensitive as well. She handles rejection super well because she's been rejected but it still hurts her a lot. She's somebody who doesn't talk about being rejected so much, but she internalizes that. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't think about when they're reading the book. They don't realize how much pain she carries all the time. because she doesn't talk about it, she just internalizes it and moves on, but she's extraordinarily empathic, she's always thinking of others, and that's I mean, that's why we love Yoselin. She or at least I hope you do. She's she's a really, really genuinely good, caring person, who's had a really, really rough go at it, up to the point where I mean, of course, in the book, there are a lot of struggles, she still has a rough go at it in the book, but I promise it gets better for her. But let's talk about maybe why we don't love her as much. Like I said, she can be annoying. You know, all of that anxiety about wanting somebody to love you and having friends and being over anxious and clingy, it gets a little much. Put on top of that that she's extra bubbly and a little, and well, again, a little extra that she's she effervesces all over the place and it's a lot, and I don't really speak to this too much, but honestly, Yoselin's probably one of those people who's unconsciously loud in public. You know, those people, well, frankly, like myself sometimes, where you get so excited about talking about something that your volume gets louder and you don't realize you're almost shouting and people are looking at you across the room like, what is going on? And Yoselin's like that. So that's, little embarrassing, little annoying. We all have our quirks, and also she's kinda desperate. Like I've said 1,000 times already in this episode, she's a little desperate, and it's, of course, justified desperation, but wouldn't you be too? I would be, my god. I would be so desperate for companionship, but of course, when you just meet her randomly, you don't know her whole past, you don't understand what she's been going through her entire life, and she definitely isn't going to just lay that all out for you, that that's not something you tell someone immediately when you're just trying to make a true friend, so yeah, she's kinda desperate and she's clingy and needy. She needs attention and she needs a lot of validation, which can get a little annoying. But honestly, I personally believe that her good qualities far outweigh her negative ones. Um, yeah, just inconquerable. You can't conquer her spirit, and that is a very rare quality. I personally think that Yoselin is great. I often like to ask people who their favorite character is because all 4 of the main characters, and the other, other main yeah, they're like the wizard Tim and Jeeve are actually also kind of main characters as well, but of the 4 main characters, they're all very, very different personalities, and they mesh well together, and they all sort of fill pieces of needs for each other, which, I mean, that's what people do in their families and friendships, right? You find a group that complements, and you build stronger together, and it's really nice. So in conclusion, yeah, Yoselin is definitely not I don't think anyone's told me Yoselin's their favorite. When I ask, Ethne is most commonly the favorite, and then Aram is right actually, Aram and Ethne are neck and neck, honestly, for the book. People are always saying, "Oh, I love Aram," or "I love Ethne." Um, Which more introverted people tend to like Aram better, more extroverted people tend to like Ethne better. Shocker. You know, because Ethne's definitely more of an extroverted personality. Definitely has a lot of introvert qualities, but she's a little more extroverted, and Aram is extremely introverted, as we said, but he's a totally powerful, cool, he's a very, very, cool character, and I actually really love writing him as well. But, and then a few people like Darian. Not everybody likes Darian. He's a little too straight-laced for a lot of people, and some people absolutely love that. But, Darian's kinda we kinda have, like, Eithne and Aram are way high, and then, like, Darian is down here, and then Yocelin's, like, non-existent, poor thing. No one ever says Yocelin, but I hope that maybe after listening to this podcast and understanding a little bit more about why she's mildly annoying at times will make you love her more, and maybe you can be her friend. I know that was cheesy, I don't care. I loved it. It was fun for me. So, yeah, that's this week's episode. I'm going to next episode, I don't have my calendar. Last weekend in November. That will be I don't know what date it is. The last Sunday in November. That will be the next episode. That one. And then we'll have 2 episodes in December, and that'll be really exciting. So don't forget the Black Friday special, which will be going on through December 10th. I'm just gonna have that deal. So $12 per book, signed book, dedication if you want it, and a free bookmark. And you get a bookmark with every book. So again, if you order, this is wishful thinking on the author's part, 10 books, you get 10 bookmarks. So that's very exciting. And The Queen Witch, the sequel to Save a World, which of course has Yocelin in it, and Ethne and Darian and Aram and Tim and Jeeve, they're all back, and I add a few new characters in there. We spice it up. I'm very excited about that release. I'm really excited for all of you to delve back into the world of Rashawn and find out how that crazy place is in trouble again. And there are fairies, by the way. I'm excited. I'm really excited about the version of fairies that I created for this world. It's super fun for me. So that is coming out in the spring. I will be making regular updates about that. And go get Spare the Swallow or To Save a World on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, or frankly anywhere books are sold. Um, and anywhere can order it for you. Just FYI, if you want to support your local booksellers, which I strongly encourage you to do because we all love our local bookstores, you can go get the ISBN number from it's right on Amazon, right under the book description. They have the ISBN number there, all of that. And your local bookstore can order it from the publisher for you, and then they get that money and you help them stay afloat, which I strongly encourage you to do. I think we should all. I like, I'm essentially authors are all essentially their own sole proprietors or entrepreneurs, if you will, and so I really like to support small business. And yes, you can get on Amazon, and that's definitely a fast and easy way to do it. But if you would like, you can go to any bookstore in your town, in your world, and it's on something called the Ingram list, which is an international book list, which means that basically any bookseller can order from it. That's it. I hope that you had a wonderful time uh, listening to this, and I hope that you understand Yocelin a little bit better now. I definitely enjoyed talking about her. Okay.